Oops. There we go. Good evening. Welcome to episode 27 of Jeremy Makes Stuff. Last week started a music collaboration challenge thing. Wrote the first part of the song, sent it off to 3 different music producers, and they're still working on things there. I'm excited to see, what becomes of that. But this week, we are back on the Wi-Fi controlled piano player. Now, let's see here. Did I save? I had a PowerPoint file last time. Or I made some notes. Let me see if I saved. Yeah, I did. We were discussing, so this is really kind of 2 projects in one, right? There's the Wi-Fi piano player, and then there's the Wi-Fi finger, which started all of this, where Tiger asked, hey, can you make me a Wi-Fi finger so I can push a button on my network, or push a button in my house when I'm not there. So, one of the things, well, so 2 weeks ago, we looked at the call and response between the ESP8266 and the Arduino, which was simulated through the excuse me, through the serial monitor in the Arduino IDE, and got some responses back and forth. Weird buffer stuff happening sometimes if it's more than 50 characters, and some other little things like that. And I said I was going to do some research on the firmware, the firmware on the ESP8266 to see if there's an update or whatever, because I'd had that particular device for about 3 years. And I did dig around into that a little bit, and it doesn't look like it's going to be difficult to put a newer version of the firmware, but then I was running into some issues too with different tools not really working right on my laptop and whatever, but still, I think with the so I still think I'm going to need to update the firmware, but in the meantime there's still other steps we can do while I figure that stuff out offline too. But once I do get that all worked out, I'll, do an episode about that, showing how to handle all that. It's just not very interesting to watch somebody read tutorials and whatever. So that's just kind of where that is. But what I want to do tonight, and as you can see over here-ish, if you're watching on the youtube.com, this episode I want to talk about database design. Now, with the Wi-Fi piano player specifically, there's not really any database stuff involved, but with the Wi-Fi finger, there has to be, because this isn't just a one-time thing, right? I want this to be a device that could have multiple of on different networks to push different buttons, I guess. And need to be able to communicate with these through the internet, and there's some logging and tracking and all that kind of stuff. So what I wanted to do tonight was work out a database scheme um, for setting up these devices and figuring out how to communicate back to a server. And we already know we can use an AJAX call through the web interface, but don't want to do that necessarily because you're not going to have the web interface of the device that's at home pulled up on your phone when you're, not at home. One of the things I noticed, I was looking at some stuff on If This Then That earlier today, and they have this that is a webhook. I was like, oh, what's that? What exactly is that? That. But basically, you can make a URL call, post or get. I think delete is an option too. I don't remember all the verbs exactly. And you can send a JSON string or some plain text or whatever. So where my head was going with all of that was there's going to have to be some kind of a master system set up somewhere. Web service, API, whatever. And with a database behind that you add the devices to and give them some kind of an API key or some way to communicate. And the device would check in every 10 seconds, 30 seconds, I don't know. We'll figure that out. With its unique identifier, and it would check and see if, are there any new commands? And if there is a new command since the last check-in, it'll then follow that command. So we need to be able to, from another device, another client, like a phone, trigger something that sets this entry up so that when the device checks in, it knows it needs to do something. So what I was thinking, instead of going the long way and making an app and all that kind of stuff, and I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see this. I'm going to turn it around so you can see it. With the If This Then That app on the Android phone, and from what I read, this is available on the iPhone as well, you can do these buttons. So I've got one here. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but it's the only one on the screen right there. And when you tap it, it calls a URL and it can post data or do a get or whatever. And so I had to set that up through the If This Then That interface. So anyway, the way that I feel like I'm rambling a little bit here. Let me switch this back. So basically what I'm saying is, get another slide here. Alright. So we've got a device, it's on a network somewhere. It's going to call out to the internet. Get a nice little cloud. There we go. It's going to call out to the internet. And it's going to see if there's a new entry. And if so, it'll do whatever it is it's supposed to do, right? So we'll say is there like a gear or something here? that's fine. So on here though, it's going to be a database somewhere. And off to wherever the user is with their phone or on a laptop or whatever. Push a button, right? Tap the if this then that button widget, and it will call a URL which will leave an entry in the database saying, hey, there's a new action to be taken. And the get a text box. Here's a phone. And here's a database.